Order, please stand with us. We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Gallagher. Please remain standing after that for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Alderman Payne, would you lead us in the pledge as well, like you always do? Thank you, sir.
Heavenly Father, we pray for your spirit here tonight, Lord. A spirit of getting along and doing what's good for our city. Heavenly Father, we know that you walk the streets of the cities, healing the lame, healing the blind, and healing all the sick, Lord. And so we ask you to heal those people who are suffering right now from the coronavirus, Lord. And we pray that you would heal the fear that's gripped our nation and our world, Lord. Help us to turn back to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes for the March 3rd, 2020 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March 3rd, 2020 with any additions, deletions, or corrections. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, a second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hughes.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is the award of the recent RFP for landscape maintenance services. Is there a motion to open discussion?
So moved.
Second. We got a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Brooks. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right, we're ready to discuss. As far as the numbers, the packet included the results of the RFP. The RFP is broken down into three different levels of services. One is grounds and manicured right-of-way maintenance. Second is the actual chemical spraying and the grounds and manicured right-of-ways. And then third is the cutting and maintenance of for condemned property maintenance. So if you look at the highlights of it, Bradley Wallace collected those. He's with us as well. But the results of that in our past contract for package one, the city has been paying $35,500 monthly. The bids that came in, American Services bid $55,250. C4 Landscaping, which is the same group of people that formerly, or some of the same people who were formerly with Bearden Integrated Landscaping, it's the same group with C4 Landscaping. Their bid was $35,500, and Chandler's Lawn Services $25,120. Then for package two, for chemical spraying, the rate the city has been paying currently is $10,940 monthly. The proposals came back. The same company, Green King, that's doing it now, submitted a proposal of $7,100 monthly. American Services submitted a monthly proposal of $28,250, and then Chandler's Lawn Service submitted a proposal for $3,800 monthly. Then when you get down to condemned property maintenance, that's based on hourly services. And so the bids, our bids or quotes came in as such. American Services quoted $133 per hour. Chandler's Lawn Service came in at $130 an hour. And C4 Landscaping came in at $90 per hour. So for that reason, and all the information in the packet includes proper, LLC or corporation formation, has all the applicable state licenses that are necessary to qualify for this contract. And it's the recommendation based on these proposals that package one, the lowest is $25,120, the Chandler's Lawn Service. Package two, the lowest is $3,800 to Chandler's Lawn Service. And package three, the lowest is C4 Landscaping for $90 per hour. So I welcome any other discussion before a motion is made to actually award the contracts.
Mayor, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
This may be something better for Bradley. We're going down. I mean, the economy's not changed. It costs more to do stuff. I mean, our bid's it's $10,000 less on our main project there. Did we cut stuff out of what we were having to do, or?
I mean, we did adjust, like, it's an ongoing thing with the city, like, occasionally we may have some areas that are not our properties anymore, so there could be some minor changes to the scope, but the scope was given the same for everybody. All the proposals were given the same scope.
Right, I'm just asking, is there a difference between what we had last year's contract?
Very, very minor, when you say, Bradley?
Yes, sir.
Any
There are
other
mostly adjustments, like the mayor said, for things that have changed. Either we're doing something ourselves that we weren't doing before, or city property or something like that that may have changed since the last time. But for the most part, it's a very similar scope to what it was before.
So are there more additions or more deletions?
There's a little more, probably more deletions, I'd say, but it's still a very similar scope to what it was before.
It is, I mean, it's no doubt, the bids, the proposal we got are shocking. I mean, it's significantly, but I mean, the bottom line is it's the free market. I mean, everybody that quoted had the same information. They had the opportunity to go do their research and their homework on what their costs are. That's, when we hire a private contractor to perform these services, that's up to them. We don't make their business decisions for them. So we give them time, obviously, to, check it out, do their due diligence, and then submit a price. And it's interesting, though. It's very interesting, the difference in pricing.
Mayor, let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
If we approve these tonight, these will be the contracted prices per month, no addendum, no additions to the contract, and we know they're not going to come back every month and say, oh, we did this extra. This is what it's going to be based on the RFP, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and one thing that is important to note is the contract, actually the contract that the city's using was formulated in a Board of Aldermen committee meeting and then further approved by the full board. But it does have a clause in there where if the service is not, to the city standards, that is it 30 days in it? Y'all forgive me for standing up, I can't see it.
I think we got to 10, but we made it 30 days in the contract.
Okay, so within 30 days, if the city's dissatisfied with the level of service, we can exit the contract.
All the contracts for this have termination for convenience clause that was put in the RFP that also be included in the contract as well.
So is there an extended length? I mean, is it a 4-year contract, or is it just however long it is until we decide to change?
How many, is it 2 or 3 years? What's our contract?
The contract we have now is 2 years. You can make this contract 1, 2, however long you want to make it. That's up to the board how long you want to make the contract. Obviously, because more than 1 year, they'll want to increase for the next year based on a CPI or something along those lines. But in essence, it's typically it's a 1-year contract, 2-year contract, however you want to do it. But in essence, it's a 30-day contract because you have the right to terminate whatever you want for convenience. But as far as the term for it actually expiring, that's up to the board. And what I'll do is I'll draft the contract however y'all want to do it. We'll get everybody to sign it and enter into the minutes for the next meeting. But just I mean, with a link, and I can put that in there.
30-day clause, I'm okay.
Right, nothing changes, I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
we got our hours, if you need it, that's pretty standard.
And no additions, I mean, I just don't want to come back there and go, oh, we decided that you all wanted this and we misquoted.
No, I mean, if there's a misquote, then at that point, then we'd be seeking to, turn it up.
Well, any additions will have, any addendums have to come back to the board for approval anyway, so it's, if the contract would be based off their response to RFP, And that's what we included, any additions and or deletions for that matter, we have to come back and be approved by the board.
I've got a question. Bradley, I don't, and I apologize, I don't know very much about Chandler's Lawn Service. Do they have decent references? They've been in business for a while.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I feel rude talking to you back there. I did meet with Mr. Chandler, since he was the parent both of those two, and we don't have a relationship with him yet. And he does have the sufficient equipment and personnel to do the job. They have experience. They have worked with the casinos in Tunica, worked at Landers Center, worked at the City of Olive Branch. So they have experience with this type of work. They have the equipment to do it, personnel, they have qualifications, like the mayor said, for spraying and those particular things from the state, all the certifications, so forth, check out. So I understand it's a big difference from what we've had, but I really, all I can tell you is that he meets the qualifications and he seems to sincerely want to work. So I didn't have any reason to not give him that opportunity, so that's why I made that recommendation.
Well, that's not very good. I think my concern was because it was so drastically lower
I
than
understand. Yeah, that's
what
why
we paid, not only what we paid in the past, but the other bids.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't somebody brand new that maybe had never done an RFP before,
They've
but
been in business
obviously.
for a while, they just haven't worked with us, so that's why I specifically wanted to talk with them, to make sure that I could be comfortable giving y'all a recommendation.
I'm only asking because we've gotten burned in the
Yes,
past
sir.
by going with the
I
lower bid.
understand, and as we said, if there is any business or anything that I couldn't have seen or we didn't know about, like Alderman Forrest mentioned, we'll be out of it as quickly as we got into it, if anything like that comes up. I don't have any reason to feel that's going to be the case based on my discussions with him. So, he seems to have a clear understanding of what he's supposed to be doing, and he feels good about his prices in terms of being able to do it, so.
And it's important to note, if you look at the math, it's the same the other way. I don't know, I find it very, it's kind of interesting how much difference it is in all three. It's not normally what we see,
Right, I agree.
And one other thing to note, and I know I've said this many times before, but the city knows my commitment to beautification in the city. The city's going to look good, and whoever gets the contract, if they don't meet the specifications or the standards that we expect, I promise you I'm going to be the first person. And whoever the board decides who it is, but it's going to apply to whomever gets the contract. They are going to do an outstanding job because beautification is extremely important in our city. And if they are not meeting that standard, then I will be the first to appear back before you with a recommendation.
Thank you, Brad.
I'll make a motion that we accept the, well, anybody else want to talk about it?
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion from the board to tell me your wishes and how you want to award these contracts.
I'll make a motion to accept the bids as presented.
Second.
And authorize you to sign.
Okay, we have a motion, Alderman Brooks, to accept the bids as submitted, as recorded and submitted by our Public Works Director, second Alderman Wheeler. Is there any, if there's no other discussion?
Do we need one for each contract?
I was going to say, I would authorize, make a motion to accept whoever you want, based on the recommendation of Public Works Director. I think that was Chandler for packaging 1 and 2, and then C4, is that who it was?
Yeah. Well, that's,
I would do 2 separate motions.
Okay, so just be two, not three.
Yes.
Two.
Yes.
all right, well, I'll amend my first motion to accept package 1 and 2 as for Chandler's Lawn Care as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion of Alderman Brooks, second Alderman Wheeler. Is there any other discussion?
And that will include the mayor signing the contract, and that contract will be implemented in the board.
Correct.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Payne?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Alderman Flores?
Yes.
That motion carries. Now is there a motion to make the award for the condemned property maintenance contract?
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion from Alderman Brooks, second from Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion?
That motion also includes the ability for you to sign.
And then those three for C4 approve as recommended.
Yep. Like Nick says.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You in agreement with that, to second that, Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is resolution for final tax exemption approval for Tracker Braun Incorporated.
Yeah, this resolution was previously approved for the tax exemption for Trico Braun Incorporated. It's been, since that time, been approved by the Department of Revenue. So tonight, authorization for the mayor to sign the final tax exemption resolution for Trico Braun Incorporated for personal and real property tax exemptions.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Flores, second from Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for Earth Incorporated, their personal property tax exemption.
This is the resolution, obviously, for Earth Incorporated personal property tax exemption. It's recommended by the City Council and it's been approved by the county as well. So tonight, authorization for that resolution and then authorization to send it to DOR for final approval, which will then come back to the board for your final approval.
I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Flores, second from Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the SESAC LLC contract with the city.
Yeah, this entity contacted us a couple of months ago. It's an entity that requires, as part of a license agreement for the music we play at our amphitheater and different venues, we need to have an agreement with this entity. It's the same thing we have with BMI, and it's a contract to allow the use of various music, license, or various music and artists at our venues to be played. The fee for the agreement is $1,496, so it can comply with all copyright laws and pay for the use of those music, or that music. So tonight, we have authorization from the mayor to sign this contract with SESAC LLC. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Kelly, second from Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for budget amendment. Mr. Chris Wilson.
Mayor and Board, simply the budget amendment to reflect the revenue bond proceeds for the upcoming $15 million GO and expensing it in the projects as you see.
I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Flores, second from Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to see if we could break out the pedestrian bridge out of that original, make it two separate votes. I'd like to, I support the fire station and I support the serve, but I'm not defending the rest, so I would like to have the opportunity to vote on those things, that way you straighten out, make it two separate things.
You can, we can do it however y'all want to do it. You still don't know. You come in, you don't want it like done.
I guess I have to vote on the amount, have one resolution for, without the bridge in it, then one with the bridge.
I wouldn't mind if just after you, myself, and
Okay, well, somebody make a motion and y'all do your thing. You making that motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we remove the pedestrian bridge from the original amendment and then have a separate vote for the bridge.
Wait a minute. You're making a motion that we do what? Remove just one item?
Yeah, just to, yep, rather than have it all together, remove the pedestrian bridge, so we can have a separate vote on that.
Okay, I mean, y'all have already voted, the board's already approved all of them, so it can be done either way. If you want to if you want that, you'll make the motion and, okay, so you make the motion, and his motion is to separate and to vote on all three with the exception of the pedestrian bridge. We got a second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion about that?
Yeah, not even, we have to drop another resolution there?
Well, you would do two different resolutions, two different votes.
But I mean, is there a second one already drawn, or what would it do?
Just, I mean, I can draft it, Chris or I can draft a resolution, that's not.
But we've got to accommodate $15 million.
You would have to.
And either both resolutions
Well, keep in mind,
aren't going to
you've
equal
already
$15 million.
approved, yeah, work is going on the bridge right now. This board's already approved the architect and engineering work going on.
In other words, a no vote's not gonna change anything.
Well, you're gonna want to adopt an amendment
Correct.
to include.
Well, one no vote's not gonna change anything.
Or three, I think. Three. No, I mean, pending another, I mean, again, it's not, there would need to be, procedurally, I would assume there'd be another motion to adopt the budget amendment to include the pedestrian bridge. And then I think everything's.
Well, I mean, it's my understanding that what you're saying is you're suggesting that we just break it up in two and vote on that tonight. So is there any reason that, excuse me again, I'm not attacking anybody. But is there a reason that we can't, I mean, do we have to go back and drop the paperwork differently or?
No, you can have two different votes, like you can separate it out and have one vote for one and one vote for the other. It's
But
just-
this is for a budget amendment, though. This is to make the books.
But you have,
The second one would be the $2 million for
It'll be
pedestrian.
on there, it's two separate.
But it's gonna be done at the same time
Add
tonight.
15.
Yeah, it still has 15, you'd have one for 13, one for 2, and it would all reconcile, you'd have two resolutions and two amendments.
Okay.
They would still go into 7-Eleven bond expense, and you're gonna go like you see them there, just on the minutes to reflect two separate votes.
Well, that's the way I thought I understand it. It's not changing things, it's just for whatever reason that the Alderman wants to do that. I want to respect that if he wants to. And if it doesn't change what the board's already stated in previous
It
action.
doesn't change a thing, it just provides that instead of making it one vote, it makes it two votes, it doesn't change a thing. The only thing it changes is procedure, it doesn't change funding or anything else.
Does that answer your question, Alderman Payne?
Yes.
Okay, so any other discussion about approving the first one with everything excluding the pedestrian bridge? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Now, is there a motion to approve the budget amendment for the pedestrian
That was
bridge?
two separate.
That was to separate and approve the three.
Right, the first one was to take out the bridge, approve all three, the other ones. Now is there a motion to do the exact same thing for the pedestrian bridge?
So moved.
To expense the $2 million in the bridge from the bond fund, right?
Correct. The same thing we just did. Excuse me, I don't understand the purpose, but.
I mean, I'll make a motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman
I'll
Flores,
second that.
second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion about that? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Hoots.
No.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is a resolution for sanitation assessment.
It's just a resolution to assess those fees have not paid, or the fees for those who have not paid the sanitation.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is an MOU between the Southaven Police Department and MDPS.
Yes, sir. This MOU is obviously between Southaven Police Department and Mississippi Department of Public Safety. This will allow for the Southaven Police Department to use the state's e-citation software. It's already being used by the Mississippi Highway Patrol and other local agencies. It's a free benefit, and it's authorization for Chief Moore to sign this agreement. I reviewed it, everything's fine. So authorization for Chief Moore to sign this agreement with MDPS.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher. Yes.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next,
I've got another, you I can use my attorney report, do it, however you want to do it.
however you want to do it. Knock it out, you're already up. Let's go.
All right, another MOU is place, same with the police department as well. This MOU is the MOU between it and the Mississippi Department of Technology Services. The agreement allows citizens to pay for the e-crash site. It allows for them to pay for e-crash reports online. We're basically piggybacking up the state contract. It'll be $10 a report, just like it's always been, but then $5 for the processing fee if they do it online. We'll only receive the $10. It's part of a master contract with the state, so it's under the state contract as a work order. To get technical, the contract's fine. It corresponds to the state contract that was in 2010. So tonight's authorization for Chief Moore to sign this contract as well with the Mississippi Department of Technology Services for the e-crash site use of the processing costs for the fees for those reports.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Southaven Police radio purchase.
This agreement is with Motorola for the Southaven Police Department radios. It is for a 4-year term. It's a lease purchase agreement at 0% interest. The cost will be $60,578.09 per year. It's been talked to Chris Wilson, the mayor, talked about it with Chief Moore and Chris Shelton, and they're fine with the financing part of it. Like I said, it is 0 interest. Upon the end of the lease, we will then own the radios, and the agreement is authorized for Chief Moore to sign, and there's a resolution as well that I sent yesterday as part of the agreement that will be entered into, and some paperwork that Chris Shelton will fill out along with the lease. So tonight authorization pursuant to the resolution for the signatures on the contract as required by Motorola.
Let's see.
And I'll be happy to answer
Mr.
questions.
Mayor, move the adopted resolution, City of Southaven, governing authorities approving the lease of Motorola Solutions for police radios as presented on this date.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution to clean private property.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt the resolution granting authority to clean private properties presented on this date.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion?
Well, there's no, in the minutes, there's actually no properties listed, so
Do we have any?
would I have it?
That would be Austin, but no, not that I'm aware of. I don't think we started
So,
completing
well,
it.
I guess I'll take back that resolution, there's nothing to actually.
Okay, so we'll just move past that tonight. Next on the agenda is our planning agenda. Ms. Whitney Cook.
Yes, we just have one item on the agenda tonight, and it is an application for DeSoto Athletic Club for an conditional use permit allowing for a reader board. It's going to be on the north side of Goodman Road, east of Getwell. It's actually not on DeSoto Athletics property. It is located on First Tennessee Bank property, which is going to be on the northeast corner of that intersection. There is a sign easement on that site, so it has been approved there and applied there for some time. This is a replacement of the existing one. It does fall in line with the specs, dimensions, and requirements set forth in the ordinance for the rear board requirements, so we recommend approval.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Wheeler, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none? Excuse me.
It falls within every other review board.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Mayor's report. First of all, I have some business that did not make the agenda. The bids were opened on Friday the 13th for the Central Park to Snowden Grove Trail. So we would like to move that project forward. As y'all know, this is, I believe, the oldest pending project. There's a lot of history with it. This is the pedestrian trail to connect Central Park and Snowden Grove Park. And the bids came in and we're ready to award a bid. So it's my ask of the board this evening. Whitney, do you have the exact, you're going to give me the number?
Yes, it's 1.371,981. So 1,371,981. We had it estimated at 1.4, so it came under.
So coming in just a little bit under the budget
yes,
amount.
sir.
But it's, I asked somebody on the board tonight, I do think for timing it's important for us to go ahead and get this thing moving, since it's, we've been through so many different contingencies with that. So will someone make a motion to award that bid, please?
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Tonight, obviously it's no secret that our world is facing an unprecedented situation. City of Southaven obviously is facing that like everyone else in the world with the COVID-19 threat. So I'm going to spend, I purposely delayed some of the things. We have some other minor updates, but just to respect everyone's time and to give me adequate time to discuss some very serious things with the board, I would appreciate that we just postpone the other. Let me focus on this. Since we first learned, the coronavirus, like everyone else, we watched national news. We're watching what's happening around the globe very closely. We want to make sure, as leaders in our community, that we are timely with decisions. We don't, a lot of people, y'all see that in the public. You hear people armchair quarterbacking the president's decisions, the governor's decisions, my decisions, your decisions, school superintendent, school board. That's common, but we have a larger responsibility to report facts and to make decisions based on facts, not opinions, not hysteria. And so for that reason, we waited for the appropriate time to come out and make a public statement. Every night, watching that, considering everything else that comes, available to us from public health experts. And last Thursday, after or was it Wednesday night, I think, when the president spoke, the information that he revealed, you learn when you're in a leadership position to develop a barometer, an internal barometer of when things are going to happen and the effects of it. And we have to be conscious of hysteria. We have to be conscious of what's reported and what's factual. So I could tell that Thursday morning it was time. It was time to put some information out from a city standpoint, which we did. In 5 days, as y'all know, many, many things have changed. I feel much differently about this risk today than I did 5 days ago. And for that reason, we've stayed on top of it as a city. We continue to do that. But today, we revisited this situation again with recent CDC updates that were made yesterday. And for that reason, it's my recommendation to the board that we do several things. A lot of these are administrative. I do need board approval for 2 things. But if you will allow me, I want to read the statement that I want to send out that I think is timely, it's appropriate that we make this decision. Now, when we make decisions like that, again, for the armchair quarterbacks, I want to let you know that it's a whole lot different when you're sitting in your recliner with a glass of iced tea and a cold beer than when you're on that field running from a 275-pound linebacker that wants to rip your head off, and there's bodies moving everywhere, and you're trying to throw in lanes and you're trying to hit a receiver, okay? It's much different. So there are things here that are going to affect a lot of other things. Like obviously we have to consider the financial impacts, just like things on a national scale that the president considers a potential recession, all the economic impacts of these decisions. We're not immune to that either. It affects us. So the things that we've already done and that we continue to do will affect us financially. So we're looking to address all those things as well. Now, when we make decisions like this, or I make recommendations to you as a board, we consider our priorities. And I don't have any doubt that everyone on this board shares, even though we have lots of responsibilities, it still always has to be with number one being public safety. And so all these things are considering financial impacts, but it's also, decisions or recommendations being made with public safety as a number one priority. So if I may, and forgive me for reading, but I'm going to read this to all of you, and then, like I said, I'm going to request some board action for two things. But basically, the statement, it has not gone out yet. This is my plan to update our citizens as follows. Update for the COVID-19 Risk Management Plan. As stated in previous updates, our world and our city continue to face many unknowns regarding this disease. We will continue to make decisions relying on information as it becomes available from public health experts. I've again copied the links to the CDC and Mississippi Department of Health below, and it will continue to encourage all to follow and heed the advice of these experts. While I understand that some of our citizens may view some steps as an overreaction, we must make decisions that prioritize public health and safety. Information available today is different than it was just 5 days ago when my initial statement was released. While we must continue with our common sense approach with personal hygiene and social distancing without panic, it is important that we take further steps to flatten the curve of a possible pandemic overrun of our healthcare facilities. Our general plan is a strategy of statistics to minimize risk of spread by limiting mass gatherings of people. Again, I want to reiterate the fact that there is no perfect science to this. There is nobody that 100% knows what's going to shake down, but we have to consider statistics and have a strategy that correlates to that. So it's my recommendation, effective immediately until Monday, May the 11th, and further notice, we will incorporate the following changes. All park and recreation events, including Springfest, will be canceled. Municipal Court will continue to follow the gathering limitations of the Mississippi Supreme Court. The Board of Aldermen meetings will continue with the request for limited attendance for only those with pending business to be discussed at the meeting. All meetings, as y'all know, are streamed live. They always are on the city website for remote viewing. Our Planning Commission meetings will continue with a request for limited attendance using video conferencing. Water and sanitation service cutoff grace periods. This is what will need board approval or rejection to give me guidance there. It's my recommendation that we extend water and sanitation service cutoff grace periods as well as any corresponding late fees until the same date of Monday, May 11th. In-person water payments will be limited to existing drop boxes located throughout the city and the drive-through window at City Hall. All other payment options remain available and encouraged. Business license renewals are encouraged to be made at drop boxes. Public records requests may be made online at our website. Building department portal use is encouraged. And it's important to note that all other city facilities and services will remain unchanged. We'll advise all of our citizens with any questions to contact us by phone at 280-CITY or to use the Citizens Request Tracker on the website with any questions. The city is also internally making changes, making amendments to our internal operations to minimize risk and also mitigate the financial impacts of these changes. The key to that, I don't want to get into all the details of that publicly, but it's important to note that not only are we doing our part to minimize the risk of spread with our operations, we're also going to take the common sense approach, but we're also going to take steps to mitigate the financial impacts. And there's things that we can do budget-wise, operationally, that will cut some costs. We can do the smart thing of suspending travel. I think it's pretty much an easy decision to suspend travel at this time. That will save us some costs citywide also. So we'll take all those steps. Overtime, obviously, without the park events, the board, y'all know this, that almost all, not all, but almost all of our overtime is related to recreational events. Events at the Landers Center, events at the Bank Plus Amphitheater, some of our tournaments at the parks, sporting events, things like that. So we believe that we can trim our overtime costs, to offset the damages of these impacts as well. But basically, that's it. I'm not going to read the previous, but basically, we're going to encourage everybody to take a common sense approach, play the game of statistics, let's limit our risk, and use that strategy of statistics. But
Do you need a motion for the sanitation?
I need a motion for the sanitation, and also, there was one, Nick, wasn't there one more that we needed?
I just thought this was, I don't.
Maybe I combined those two. I think I just combined them. Okay.
Can we do it in one? It can be one motion, right, Nick?
Yes.
And I'll make the motion that we extend the sanitation and water grace period,
And late fees.
and late fees. And the cutoff grace periods will extend to the delinquent accounts as well as corresponding late fees as presented on the state, until Monday, May 11th.
We have a motion from Alderman Brooks, second from Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion about that?
You don't need any other motion to cancel any other grants, right?
I mean, the day-to-day activities, I think the state law gives me the authority to do that.
I mean, we haven't voted, I mean, I guess the only thing we would do at this point is vote to rescind the Springfest contract. I don't know if there are any are out there, but just in case.
Do we have any contracts in place?
It's just, it's only the one with the, that's only, they need a percentage of what we do.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
So we need, is that the only one? Okay, so we'll need a motion to cancel that contract with Springfield.
I just
Can we give you the authorization to do, if there are more, to go ahead and do it too? Not since we're canceling it?
I don't think there are any more, but you can go ahead and make a motion to rescinding all Springfest contracts in accordance with the cancellation of Springfest.
Okay, we'll get that.
Let's vote on the current motion.
We'll get that next, but I want to make sure I answer your question. And again, I'm always sensitive and real cautious that I don't take any authorities that are not given to me, but it's my understanding that state law does give me the authority over all day-to-day activities to protect the public safety of our people. So I think that is my decision, but I welcome your thoughts, and if someone doesn't agree with that, certainly that's why we're talking about it tonight.
I sent you that text earlier week that they're doing that all over the country, so they're canceling big events like Springfest and everything, so.
Yeah.
And I'm good with it. We have to put our citizens first.
Yeah, and I think it would make sense if we're going to follow the health experts, if we're going to follow the latest recommendations of the CDC and the health department. That's certainly not consistent to have public gatherings, during that time
This is
period.
dangerous. I wish we could do the video conference.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, and we discussed that, actually, that's another good point. We discussed that in the department head meeting today about any potential ways that we can do work remotely. Unfortunately, when you work for the public, a lot of our services aren't city hands-on, so, the things that we've got here are things that we can do to minimize risk, but it's, I hear what you're saying, it's just not possible in, public service to limit, the business of the city has to go on, service has to go on. I guess it's a good time to thank all of you for putting yourself out there, serving the city, and again, our first responders, I mean, that goes without saying. We talked about them as well. I know Chief Moore and Chief Scallions have already had meetings with all of them. They are on the front line. They're coming into contact with the most people, and there's things that we can do, again, to minimize risk, but we cannot obviously cut off our city services.
Mayor, I'd like to thank you in advance, because I know there's going to be some negative you're going to deal with because of this, but this is one of those kind of things that you just got to do.
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate that, so I want to thank you in advance because by taking this bold move.
Well, that's very kind of you, and I really appreciate that. It's a big boy job, but I appreciate you saying that.
I do have one question. If going forward, if we have to place curfews at certain times, do we have to have board approval for that?
We would, and I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, because I do want to address that. I did not have this in the statement, but among the board, that's something that and a couple other things would require future board action. So we're going to do that. That's a great point. Is there any other discussion about the motion about extending the grace periods and the late fees for the water and sanitation services? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hughes.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Then we need to make a motion to exit the contract. How do we need to frame exit the contracts with Springfield? Rescind all contracts.
All Springfest contracts in light of the community police and Springfest.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Brooks, second from Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. And then back to what Alderman Flores mentioned, anything that would deal with, adopting some kind of city plan that would alter, ordinances in the city which would restrict gatherings in private places, that would be something that would definitely require board action. I know that is happening throughout the country in some places. I'm just going to give you my personal opinion, and then I'll love to hear your comments. I think that when we encourage private business and others to follow the same guidelines that we're following, I think that we're sending a good leadership message that it's important, again, to minimize risk. None of this is a perfect science. You can take all these steps. There's no guarantee with something like this. So again, I want to point out it's a minimization of risk. But when we encourage private business to do the same things that we're doing, I think that we've done our job, as public officials. I do not think it's our job let me just say, based on the information that's out there today, I don't think it's our job to go in and start closing down restaurants or other private businesses. I think it's their decision, to make their own decisions, to change their business like that. But that's my opinion. Now, you let, 10 days go by and we get tremendously drastic information, that's something that maybe we revisit. But I just don't think at this time, I always want to err on the side of letting private business make private decisions. And I don't think it's time for that yet. But again, I'll open up the floor, for other opinions.
My only concern was if it becomes that time and if it is board action, how do we do that?
I don't have the authority to do that. It would have to be a special call board meeting. Correct me?
Correct, yes. Under 21-19-17, governing authorities and municipalities have the power to make regulations to protect property, health, and lives, and ensure welfare of the community by restricting the movements of its citizens or any group thereof when there is imminent danger of public safety because of the freedom of movement thereof. So I think that would give you authority to do these things. But like I said, there's under 21-19-3, there's other things as far as quarantine or contagious or infectious diseases. So there are different statutes out there, but they all require the governing authorities to make these decisions, and so it'd be the board and make it.
Would a mandate by the governor supersede that?
Well, federal law is always going to, state law is always going to supersede local law.
So if the governor says we're doing this, then we don't.
Well, that's another good point. I'm glad you teed that discussion up too. Some of our citizens, not to their fault, don't understand, what the roles of everyone.
Right.
They don't understand that a mayor of a city doesn't have the same, authorities as the governor of the state, and obviously not the president of the United States. So when they go out and they declare certain things and the way it changes, I don't have all those authorities. Okay. Now there are, we can declare, emergency in our city, and there's some things that we can, where we can access other funding. And so we talked about that today with fire and police chiefs. We're still considering that. I don't want to be dramatic with it, but if it's something that we do need to declare, an emergency like that, we will take those steps, to look at ways that we maybe can recoup funding, for our lost revenues, that kind of thing. But I don't think we're at that point that we need to take action with that tonight. But long way to answer your question, we'll need to reconvene if we decide to take steps like that. Does anyone else have any comments about that, or that they want to, or just share your thoughts if you think that we need to do something that we haven't done?
Or the governor forces right hand, or the president.
Yeah. Well, and the important thing too, tracking with the logic of not panicking, is you got to pay attention to the experts. I'm not a public health expert. I'm not an infectious disease expert. Nor are you, unless you tell me something I don't know about you. We got to listen to people that know this. I mean, that's why, when the president does something, he's got experts that are advising him. Obviously we have to follow, federal and state laws, and we want to, and we need to, because they have access to information that we don't have. So, anything that we've done as a city has been, consistent, with what's been done on a federal and state level. Any other comments about that? Okay, and then last thing is, Nick about that as far as like, I'm still waiting on information on what funding could be available, like if we declare an emergency in our city. I know the Chief Scallions and Chief Moore shared some information today, but before we do that, I'd like to know exactly what they will pay us for. Like, there's no need for us just to, for a dog and pony show to stand up and say, I am declaring an emergency. We need to know how that affects the city, and I don't have all that information yet. So I would like to get that information before we do anything like that.
That's fine.
You see any harm in waiting on that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and that is all that I have tonight about that. Again, I would just leave everyone with the request to, help communicate this in the city. Let's help communicate this and encourage everyone, to take every step that they can to minimize risk. And again, like Alderman Hoot said, I know there's those out there that say, this is an overreaction, and I welcome that. But the only thing I know is that I'm 52 and a half years old. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime, and my parents have never seen anything like this. And I think probably just about everybody in this room would have to admit that some of the things that have been stated by experts the last 5 days, we've never heard that before. And I hope that this is an overreaction. I hope that within the next 5 days we find out that, that the news is much more positive. But again, I just think that we have to err on the side of caution and protect the public health and safety of our people. Okay, I'll move on from that. Next on our agenda is our citizens agenda. And we have Mr. Darren Maxwell and the Lewis family property owners requested to speak. If you would please come to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Board of Aldermen. Appreciate the opportunity for y'all to hear our concerns regarding our road. If you would, I'm going to, is it okay if I pass this information out?
Sure.
If you don't mind, I'll just kind of want to go, just kind of read through it. I know Mary, you and I have been talking about this off and on for a couple of years. And Alderman Wheeler, we've been talking, my niece as well, been talking to Alderman Wheeler. But we do have some of the residents here tonight, and I would like them to stand up. I know y'all been hearing from me a lot, so if you don't mind, Mayor, if it's okay.
Certainly.
Kind of
Absolutely.
address some of your concerns about the road.
And if they would like to, I know we may want to keep our distance, but if everyone wants to, if y'all want to just come where you're able to step up and answer questions or speak, you're welcome to do that as well.
Anyone?
Or if you want to just come up as you speak, however you choose to do it.
Okay. All right, well, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of read through some of the points that you and I talked about some of this. But first off, West Banks Road, Banks Road has got two sides. It's got East Banks and West Banks. East Banks Road is the side that I live on, which is right now considered a private road. And I'll talk about more of that a little bit later here. But West Banks Road is actually a city road that was being developed, and most of the residents that just stood, they live on West Banks Road. And the developer, Mr. Cole, he had developed the property, paved the road initially, but did not complete the road. And Mary and I had talked about, the city calling the bond in on that portion of the road to get that road done. So that's West Banks Road. We also talked on point number two, it will cost approximately, and this would, you correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, that it will approximately cost about $10,000 to pave the road. It's about probably 800 feet of road. So, I figured that since we're taxpayers, $10,000, we've been paying taxes for 12 years there. most of the residents, well, I know me and Tangela and some of the other residents been paying for 12 years of taxes. Point number 3, East Banks Road will legally sign over ingress egress rights to the city. We had done that prior before with Mayor Davis, when Mayor Davis was in office. Now we had signed over the ingress egress, and Jones Davis had did all the paperwork and everything on it. For some reason, I went back to him, we couldn't find it, he couldn't find the paperwork. I didn't keep a copy of the paperwork, but on our East Banks Road side, we had legally signed that over to the city. And matter of fact, my niece had an email. This is one of the emails that at the time Mayor Davis was in office. But they had agreed to do the road and take over the road. Ron Smith was he was over the roads at that time, and they came out. We did everything legally and was giving the road over the East Banks Road to the city. Point number 4, I talked to Ms. Hudson at the Attorney General's office and verified that the jurisdiction of this road is Banks Road is indeed a city road. So it would be up to, from my understanding, to the Board of Aldermen to change any ordinance or anything of that nature. Point number 5, Southaven Circuit Clerk verified Banks Road was indeed a city road, taxpayer funded. There's a portion of Banks Road, north and south, it's about 300 feet that the city took over. They took over that road. I'm not sure the year, probably was like early 2000. So they took over the road in early 2000. And of course, like I said, the other east and west Banks Road was developed by Mr. Cole. Okay. I'm just going to read the rest of number 6. Approximately 400 feet of Banks Road north and south is already a city road, was taken over by the city. Point number 7, the city and the county collects approximately $35,000 of taxes from the voting residents in our neighborhood. Point number 8, the condition of our road is just not a good look for the city. A lot of times you have, especially during like 4th of July celebration, even on our private road, we have, people come down and they want to look at fireworks. We got one of the best views in the city when it comes to that. They come down, we don't, say, hey, it's a private road, you can't come down there. We don't do that. They come down and they, look at the fireworks, as long as they don't get on the grass, not rowdy or anything, we don't have a problem with it. And we've had residents, a lot of times we get residents from across Snowden Road, walking their dogs and things on our road. We don't say, hey, it's a private road, you can't walk on our road. We treat it's being utilized as a city road right now. And you got residents from across the street, it's a good community. I mean, we don't have any problems with people coming on our road. We treat it like a city road, and going back to what Mayor Davis and the previous administration want to do, we're not asking for it to make it real wide or anything. We just want the road paved. And we feel like with the fact that Tangela and Mr. Lewis, myself and Mr. Cleves, on our end of Banks Road, in the last 12 years, that's over approximately $150,000 in taxpayer dollars that we pay.
I've been listening to 2.
Oh, 2?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe a little bit more, but I don't know what goes to the city, what goes to the county. We basically just ask for the road. I'll go ahead and finish up. I know y'all got to get out of here. Point number 8, point number 9, the joggers come by, they dodging potholes, walking their dogs, and things of that nature. he was talking about the condition of the road. What's wrong with our road? Why don't y'all get the road fixed? So, you know, lately we've been trying. And the last point I want to make is, there's a safety issue. The main thing is the safety issue. The school bus, you know, often, you know, it drops our kids off in the evening hours. School bus is heading eastbound on Narrow Road, and the children have to cross, our kids have to cross oncoming traffic. Now, we know that, you know, to ensure the safety of our children, the school bus could come down Banks Road, go down Banks Road East, provided there was adequate pavement of turnaround. This would help ensure the safety of the kids and our kids. It would ensure the safety of the kids in the neighborhood. And it would also prevent, God forbid, another unnecessary liability for the city. So those are some issues that we wanted to present to y'all. You know, let y'all know our concern, you know. And I don't know, maybe I should ask this question. I don't know what constitutes, you know, or how many private citizens that have private roads come to you all, saying, hey, look, will give over the rights to the road to the city. Do y'all get a lot of that or not?
Not a lot of it. I mean, the issue does come up occasionally. I'll expand on that, but I don't want to interfere with your time. I'd say the answer to that is no. It's not common.
All right, but that's pretty much what we're asking for. We're just asking for that the city would vote on. You know, we would legally, as we've gone through before, sign the ingress, egress rights over to the city. Already, you got the mail truck coming down. You got the garbage truck coming down, which is fine. You know, we want that. You got people utilizing the road as a city road. And on West Banks, I'm just asking that, you know, y'all call in the bond on that. I know in order for a builder to build homes, he built, how many houses down there? About 4? Well, he built 4, but it's about 7. It's total about 7 houses Mr. Poe built on that end of West Banks. And I know in order for the city to allow something like that to be done, a bond has to be issued. If a deed of bond was not issued, then that would be a liability. That would be something that the city would have to take care of. So, you know, that's what we're asking.
Okay, I just have a quick interjection, if you don't mind,
Sure.
The only thing that I would like to say about this is maybe you need to know the location. It's really where you're trying to beautify. It's right at that Stone Grove section. All the other neighborhoods, that's how this private drive makes sense, because one side, the left side is city, and the other is private. Well, we live on the left side, we bought there almost 2 years ago. Otherwise, we love the city, but that is the biggest detour when we tell people to come to our house. Like, hey, come to our house, we live near the amphitheater. They're like, hold up, your city? This is really bad. So that is our point, is that this is the section that you're trying to beautify. We see all these other fantastic things they're doing. I think they're doing a fantastic job. But that is the section that we bought thinking, oh, this is a great area. And then we've really been surprised that the road hasn't been maintained. So that's our own point. So
That's
they brought some really good facts.
They did, and Darren Maxwell, well presented, very well presented, and thank you for interjecting that as well. And I want to make sure, if I may, I have, after talking to Darren several times, I mean, I've driven down the street numerous times, looking for a way that this makes sense. And if I may, just so I can kind of explain to the board the situation a little better, exactly where this is located is on Nell Road, just east of Getwell. When you pass Snowden Park, and like Darren said, he's got the ideal driveway. If you want to watch fireworks, let's call Darren, we'll go hang out at his house. I mean, it's perfect. But you, when you go east on Nell, you take a left on Banks Road, which is a northbound road. So what they're talking about, it's like the shape of a T. So when you go north on Banks Road, it tees up, and then you have the code on like dead ends on both sides. And so, like he's saying, I don't know the history, that was long before us, but the road is a city road. And then where Darren lives is on the east part of the T. And then the Pogue development was on the west side of the T. And so first of all, Whitney, would you update us, what's the status of a previous bond for the Pogue area? This is Whitney Cook, our planning director.
I know him very well. There's an ongoing bond with Mr. Pogue. We did have trouble trying to retrieve it from him, but we actually had it renewed. We can look into the bond for the west side, and either have him call, or have him do it, or us call it and do it ourselves.
But we've not called a bond. Okay. So there is a bond in place for the west end of the T.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if y'all let me call it T just so we can visualize. So basically, the east end of the T there is no bond.
No, there's no bond. I think I've talked to Tangela and everybody associated with it, and I cannot attest to what Ron Smith and Mayor Davis did in terms of agreeing for it to be a road. Every documentation that we have shows an ingress egress, which is not a city right of way. They're identified differently on a plat and on easements. So every documentation, because we've searched or we've looked as best I can do to find some place that gives me an idea that it could be a road.
And to put that in practical terms, Whitney's a professional planner, but to put that in practical terms, what that means is, like when you apply for something, you have the choice then, is this going to be a public road? Do you want to build it out to specifications of the city or not? And contrary to this situation, there are a lot of people that don't want that. Like they want to have a private drive. So that's why you have the option to make it a private ingress-egress instead of a request to become a public road.
Right, if on a plat or a document that you'll have, it's either going to be identified as public right-of-way to be dedicated, or it's going to show ingress-egress easement, and it'll have a deed associated with the easement.
Yeah, Tangela?
Just to give you a background on that, east side of the road, I built my house in 2002, and before I could build a house, the city at the time told me that I had to make it a private drive. So basically, that's my long drive. I paid for that section of the road to get to my house. And years later, Darren and Mr. Cleveland moved in here. So initially, it was supposed to be just my private drive.
Okay.
Or a private road to get to my house. Because basically, either I could build a big road or I could get something just to get to my house. And that's what I did.
Okay.
And that would be correct. That's what we require for minor subdivisions versus major subdivisions, like we talked about at the last board meeting.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think, what was supposed to happen afterwards, the conversion over to a city right-of-way, that agreement, when that one got platted, never came to fruition. And there's no documentation that we've got that shows it.
You talking about like the previous
Like when
administration?
when Tangela built hers, if it was a private drive, we would call it just that. That's what we have still in motion with all plats. If it converts to a right-of-way, like when Darren came in and did Section E of Banks Road subdivision, it would come in as public right-of-way, and we would convert it. It would be looked at, inspected, built, and such. And there just may have been some miscommunication after you built yours and in what it transitioned into, but we can find no documentation where it transitioned into a right-of-way. And
So
that's kind of
I
where we're
just
at.
looked up and more houses came, but I built it.
Mm.
It's not, that's,
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to make clear.
And as far as the road, this where we'll kind of advance this conversation a little quicker. Where it gets into what I can do as mayor, when Darren brought this to my attention, we explained to him that currently the current ordinance specifies how the road has to be before the city takes over the road. Like it has to have a certain width, and then the sub road has a thickness that's required, that kind of thing. When it's done as a private drive, obviously we don't inspect it. We don't know how that was done because it was built by you for private purposes. So there is an ordinance that specifies the specifications that have to be met for the city to adopt the road or to take the road. And so that's what I've explained to Darren. And again, like Whitney said, when it's platted as either a private road or a public road, and then these specifications would apply there too. So bottom line is it was built as a private road. Nobody in this room would like to say, let's spend $10,000 to go pave this road. I told Darren this. I'm going to be honest with everybody. I would love to say, hey, let's put that on a street improvement schedule and go knock out that 800-foot section, make it a public road. But it's my understanding that state law doesn't give me that authority. And so Nick Manley is with us. And Nick, I'd like you to speak to the board and just tell them what they could potentially do at this point or what I could do. I mean, my goal is to put a smile on my citizens' faces, and like you said, I mean, beautification. You know, if someone thinks that it's a public street and it looks bad, they think that's us just not paving it, that kind of thing. So there's nobody in the room that would like to put a smile on your face more than I would. But Nick, will you please inform the board on what could possibly be done?
Well,
And stay in compliance with the state law.
yeah, I think, and I talked to Whitney about this, and just so I'm clear, it's platted as a private road, a private drive, obviously, and that's what we talk about, and I think everybody acknowledges that. I think in our, so that under that theory, the board could take it, but our own ordinance requires before we take it that it must meet certain guidelines. So obviously, you're always free to dedicate, basically say, here, I'll give it to the city, and that's fine. But the action that comes when the city actually takes it, will the city take it? So the city board, most of the time, does this via adoption of a plat. When they adopt a plat, we adopt it. The plat then has the road specified, tells you what's public, what's private, that type of thing. In this situation, the ordinance requires the road to meet certain specs before the city will take it. So the board can obviously, at that point, revise the ordinance, and if they revise the ordinance to say, to meet certain qualifications, they could do that, and that ordinance could be revised, and the board could then say, if there are roads that meet this spec, the board will take it. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not an engineer, obviously, can't really do math, but all that being said, is if you had the road being, if the road was there at the beginning with, and it doesn't meet those specs, right now the board's hands can be tied due to its own ordinance and due to the state law saying we can't accept public road. We can't accept a road that's private just because someone wants us to because it doesn't meet the spec. The board could say, all right, well, we can't accept private roads unless they meet X, Y, and Z. They would need to change what X, Y, and Z is pursuant to their ordinance. And so the ordinance then would come into play by saying, once it meets these specs, whatever the specs are of the current road, we'll then take it. Now, it would then apply citywide, obviously. You can't just apply to one individual road. So in this instance, I don't know that, I'm to be honest with you, I live south on Getwell, but I'm not 100% sure what we're talking about. I know the area, I have known the road.
Do you know where Phil G is?
Yeah.
It's directly behind it.
Okay.
My house is adjacent to it.
Okay, so I'm familiar with that area. So the board in that situation is, right now, there are certain requirements that say you must have this width, the mayor's point, these qualifications for the city to accept that road. And here, in talking with the mayor and Whitney, at this juncture, that road does not meet those qualifications pursuant to the ordinance. The board could revise the ordinance to say, hey, we'll accept roads anywhere in the city as long as they meet X, Y, and Z, and your road would then qualify under that revision. I don't know exactly what that revision would look like as we sit here right now tonight, because I don't know what the board would want to do when looking at roads like that across the city in the context of beautification in these types of situations. So there is ways to do it. It would just require an ordinance revision that would also not only affect this road, but in fairness to the board, it affects the whole city, the whole entire area. But the fact that it says private on the plat would need to be addressed via the fact of it coming to a standard of whatever the city declares it as. So in fact, you have it saying it's private right now.
No, I guess my question is, how do other houses come to be built later?
Yeah, because ours is actually city.
Yeah.
Like ours
They're
is
different, they're
city.
different
I think
sections.
there are different sections of the plat is what I look at when she said the plat. One plat on the one side of Banks Road, am I correct on saying Banks Road?
The west side.
West side of Banks Road actually notices or states that, hey, this is a public right of way. The other side of Banks Road plat says private, for all intents and purposes, it says private. And the fact it says private, a city legally is prohibited from doing work on private property except in certain circumstances when you have drainage issues and that type of thing, and then you have condemnations, and then you can do it. The code allows for certain circumstances. But when it comes to a private road, the city is prohibited from doing it on that road unless the city accepts it as a dedication.
Well,
Now,
can I ask you this?
Yes, sir.
With the fact that, like I said before, the fact that we're gonna give it over to Mayor Davis and his administration, and,
Yes, sir.
they say, okay, as long as you can legally give this road over to us, then you start saying, hey, we'll give it over to you. We legally sign all the documents, the plat, Ron Smith, they did all that. John Davis drew everything up, and I didn't keep a copy of it, but all that was legally done. And also, what I want to point out, the first part of Banks Road is north and south. It was taken over by the city. I used to ride my bike up and down that road when I was a little boy, you know.
Yeah.
It was just a little rock road. But I guess, I don't know, me and Mayor talked about it, whether the city took it over when it became a county road, county the city, or what have you. But my thing is this, with the fact that we're willing to legally give over East Banks Road, and with the fact that, from me talking to the Attorney General, it's really up to the Board of Aldermen to make that ordinance change. And with the fact that y'all make the ordinance change, I don't think you have, and I could be wrong, I don't think you have a lot of private people that's saying, hey, look, I want y'all to change my road over to the city. Most people that do private roads, and you probably only gonna have maybe one or two of them, most of them want it private. We want our road to be a city road. It's already treated like a city road. We are utilizing it as a city road. And of course, I know they shouldn't have a problem getting theirs done. But on our end, we want to give it over to the city. We've been talking about this for a while, and I know Mayor, he's been working with me on it, trying to get something done. But legally, the Board of Aldermen, y'all have the authority to do that. I mean, based on what Ms. Hudson said at the Attorney General's office.
They have the authority to revise the ordinance, what they have.
Now, if you revise the ordinance, could you do it like grandfather in, since the fact that y'all took over Banks Road at one point, and it wasn't even a house, it was only one house on that road. Y'all took it over, widened it out, and all we're saying is just, could y'all do that?
Was that done with, I think there
I
was,
think he's talking north-south.
north-south, I think there was an annexation at one point when we took it over as a county, or there was a,
My
when there was,
house was there then too.
okay, did we took over a portion of road that was a private drive, or was it private or public?
It was just a
Same
road.
hours, it's
Wow.
basically
It was a narrow
to
little
get to your
road.
house, that's what it's considered.
Do you remember when it was annexed? Do you remember what it was when it was annexed? When that area, because you were in the county.
Probably around 2000, like when Johnson was built, around when she built her
When it
house.
was annexed, it was around 2000, but they did that road around 2004.
But that's what would be interesting to know is,
And I moved in there too.
was it a private or a public road when it was in the county?
There was one elderly lady that lived there, and everything was at the end of the road, the mailbox, garbage and all that. And she was like 90 years old, so I think that's why Greg Davis fixed the road so that she could get her services right at her door. That's what.
Well, and that could be right. That we had the right to do that one though, because we looked at that plat as well. And the north-south one identified it as public road, and then it even had a note to the side that said to be built to county specifications as a county road on that plat. And like I said, for whatever reason, I've never seen, this is your plat right there, and you see highlighted in there, it specifically just identifies it as a private drive, a private ingress egress, and I don't know why. That's not normal on the plats. Anyways, it just, everything documented as such is because I've looked with Darren as many times as I can to find something that shows roads so we can go that route with it. But all the other plats associated with the west and with the north-south road identified it like we would normally see on a plat. And even noted that they would be built to county specifications because at that time, you know, when they recorded it, it was done in the county. I just can't find anything on this side that would allow us to just go forward, unless there's a motion, obviously, like they're requesting now.
Well, I mean, I know this is the first time we present this to the Board of Aldermen. Like I said, we present it to you all. You know, I can understand, y'all need to look it over. I don't know, I didn't expect a vote today, but I'll be happy to get a vote today. But, you know, we need to revisit it. You know, I can understand, but we need something done to the road. Of course, on West Banks Road, I don't see an issue with that. I mean, the bond should take care of that. But on our side, you know, we definitely want ours taken care of as well. And with the fact that the bond will be called in on that, you know, I mean, I know Mr. Wheeler, he's a builder himself. I mean, I don't think while you pay to that side, we're not even action that you have to get it real wide. We just come down and pave the road, or, you know. And And I know the mayor talked about, $10,000 for, we can fix our end of the road, but we're paying taxes. Just like everybody else, we want the road repaired.
And my taxes are about 4,500.
Yeah. And
Since 2002.
yeah, no, and I don't think, well, I know that this board, nobody's doubting that you've not paid your way. That's not the issue at all. Like I said, and I gave Darren that just from what I know learned about paving streets, I gave him a ballpark estimate on what it would be just to go and put a new layer of asphalt on it. And that's an estimation, but it should be pretty accurate. But no, it's not an issue of that you're not paying enough tax money, nothing like that. I mean, like I said, there's nobody in this room that'd like to put a smile on your face more than me. It just becomes an issue of what impact does it have for us to change the ordinance. And Darren makes a great point. It's not the norm that people are coming to us and say, I want to give you my street. But it is an issue that we have to require that with new streets. Like if we did that, then what if somebody came in and said, I want to build a new development, but I don't want to build the streets wide enough where you can get a fire truck down there. I want to just build them and save some money and make them small. Well, then you can't say, well, we let Banks be a city road with this width, but then we're requiring you to build this. That's what the attorney's talking about. It becomes an issue of how do we have a consistent ordinance with the street,
But how's it consistent when 2 other houses have been built back there since?
Well, we don't, as far as it wouldn't be plat, like Whitney, if it's not a platted subdivision,
A
they're
minor
probably,
subdivision, in that zoning, 3 lots or less can have a private drive, which is like the same thing we kind of discussed last. Anything over that amount then becomes a major subdivision.
yeah.
Without making a decision tonight, I'm just trying to go through, and I've thought about it as many times as I can, as many times we've talked about it, and I don't know if it's even possible. I would shy away from a change in the ordinance, but maybe we can go and do some research on possibly looking at a variance, a hardship on the specs. Obviously, we'd have to agree to take the road in, but then after that, maybe look at a variance to the specs and the subsurface stuff to see if we can fix it without requiring the massive major subdivision roads.
Yeah, that's an idea. And then Darren reminded me, one of the things he was talking about riding his bike, the way it used to be. Well, if we took that road, like the north-south in the T, not the top of the T, north-south Banks Road, we took that at some point. We took that, is there not a way that it could be considered all as one? Because you're only talking about 800 feet,
And I think that's the biggest thing is like the left side, you actually own an L. You have
Yeah.
this side that goes
Yeah.
directly toward the park as
That's a good
well.
point.
So if you own an L, but it makes a T, it looks dumb if you were to have to pay half, but then the other section just is left.
And I think that was definitely the intention.
That's
I
it.
just think there was, when it platted with your
Yeah.
lot, I think there was a misstep somewhere back then. I agree. I don't think that was ever the intention.
Yeah.
Once Tangela's house
Yeah.
went in, when Darren and everybody else came in, I think the intention was probably to go into a road concept. There's just no documentation right now showing it.
Who platted it? Or,
That John, it may have been Robbie Jones.
I see. If that one note is what's so.
It is. It's not normally on a plat, and all the other ones follow suit with the normal subdivision.
I've never seen
section
it
two.
like that on a plat ever. It's just interesting that that's, I know it's not, I'm just saying, it's more flexible, if you will. That note right there is almost like, I want to make a point, and that's why I'm gonna put this on the plat and then file it, and it's just,
And then it
to Whitney's
references
point, it's
your
odd.
deed, Tangela. All the plats reference your deed, which has the private ingress egress easement on it. It's the best documentation, but it's
I
against
think it
your
was so
ordinance.
complex because I was a single private builder and they were just trying to get me back there. And I don't know what.
They did a great job of getting you back there with the.
I don't know what they did, but I just know that the road looks terrible. You got potholes as big as this, and I would say at least 10 to 12 of them. So the road looks terrible.
Yeah. And we want, like I said, we want to do it. Nick, one quick question, then I'm going to recommend a follow-up discussion on this. If this engineer submitted this with those notes, would a follow-up documentation to this change that?
Probably a revision to the
It'd be a
plan.
revision to the plat, and then the city would have to accept the revision to the plan. A revision that would be approved, I guess, by, what we're saying is, let's say this, like say, this is basically how this works. I don't want to, it's the equivalent of this is, somebody has a problem with their, and I'm not saying this was going on, but it's you gotta think about it in equivalencies. Someone has a problem with some property, I don't wanna deal with it anymore, I'll just get to the city. Well, that's not, the city has to accept it before it just becomes a city's problem. So a revision to the plat would be the same exact, concept when, if you had somebody come in and say, I'm gonna revise the plat, well, the city would still say, okay, we agree to that revision, we'll accept it. I do think that would help from the standpoint of giving context to possible variance, of what was meant to be and how it's supposed to be. But it would be more of a variance type issue if that's even feasible as opposed to a exception revision type issue. That makes, it's getting highly technical.
Well, I think you would almost do it in a two-step. If we could revise the plat and say, okay, yes, we're willing to look at dedication of this as a road, then after that, instead of amending the ordinance and changing specs on roads, which is a pretty severe thing, is looking into a variance at that point, saying, okay, we understand this is 12-foot wide, 15-foot wide, whatever it is, and we're willing to accept this road as it stands, and that way we can do the repairs. Because the variance is based on hardship. I mean, and it's based on a piece of property's hardship, and I think there's probably some pretty good hardship on that road. But I mean, I was thinking about that sitting here, and I text Nick, and I mean, it may be some way we can find to work with, it may not, but I just kind of threw it out there as an idea that just came to me while we're talking.
Variance application process.
Yeah, there's a variance application process, and we can walk through that. I mean, but it would have to be something we could not do it until this board made a decision that we would even look at accepting the road and revising the plat.
And we can do the variance without having to change the ordinance.
I would, yes, because like I said, I really err away from that, because then that takes our whole two-way road concept away, emergency services away, so it would have to be like a case-by-case basis, and that's what a variance looks at, is a hardship on a case-by-case basis.
I agree with that, and I think they presented good enough.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a hardship here, but I just want to make sure we don't run into a domino effect and put in the ordinance, and then everybody coming in trying to shrink the roadways and save costs, and I just don't see that as the best
I think
option.
most of us on this board probably agree that, and I'm not speaking for anybody else but myself, that the last thing you want to do is open Pandora's box. on
Right,
private roads.
right.
Well, there's another route.
But there's another route.
I mean, this is what I just came into my head when I was sitting here thinking about it, and like I said, I text Nick, if you tell me if there's anything that aligns you with that, but that's just what was going through my head right now, is maybe we can try this route.
So in order for us to give a clear direction moving forward, Nick, do you feel like that we could process it as a variance application?
I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
Obviously, there's always not many things you can apply to anything. It's just whether or not a variance is the most effective, is a way of doing this when it comes to a road. And I don't know if it's a good or not. It's the first thing from the first time I brought my attention as far as the variance part of the portion.
Okay. All right, well, here's what we'll do. We do have to move forward because we have to appreciate the other people's time that's here, but I hope that we've given you, I think y'all all done a good job. Y'all make great points, very, very great points. So if we can, let us do this at this point. Let us, in a timely way, go research the variance process and see if there's a way. And again, not making any commitments, because this is it's a board call. I don't have the authority to pave the street. It's a board decision. It has to be board action for us to be able to do this. But let us research that, and then we can follow back up with you. You're welcome to come back to the meeting, but if it's okay with you, I'm glad we can reach out to Darren and just update you what we find out.
Well, I mean, if you don't mind, the next meeting in April or May, whatever is best for y'all, what do you think?
I mean, you can go ahead and plan on coming back on April 7th.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want.
That's good with everybody?
And let us do some research then, and we'll report to the board and try to get the board informed as much as possible on what we find out too.
Yeah, and of course, the bond, y'all checking on the cost.
I just checked with Debbie because of my bonds. It's on auto renew, so all I have to do is inform Mr. Poe we're taking it within 30 days, and if he doesn't, we can go get it from the bank. So we're good.
Okay, so that section of the T is secure. Like you said, it's an L. It's not a T. It's an L. Okay, well, thank y'all for coming forward, and we will revisit this. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the citizens' agenda? Hearing or seeing none, we'll move on. Next on the agenda is our personnel docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the personnel docket presented on this date.
Second.
Did you second? Motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is our city attorney's legal update.
Okay. One quick item, and Andrea has it, we've already approved it, just making a formal note that the urban art contract for the bridge will be entered in minutes tonight. I know we voted in the past, we passed, but just, there's no action to take other than noting it'll be in the minutes. In the previous meeting, it was approved, it wasn't present, the contract wasn't actually here, but it'll be in the minutes for this meeting. So it reflects the terms that were voted on, the 6% of the actual price.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the utility bill adjustment docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the utility bill leak adjustment docket as presented on the table.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hughes.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yep.
Alderman Perez.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the claims docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the claims docket in the amount of $1,715,831.72, including demand checks.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hughes.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Perez.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the purpose of determining the need for executive session.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Gallagher. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. The need this evening is economic development within our city. Is there a motion to declare executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. The mayor and board will now enter executive session. We are going to do something differently than we've done in the past due to the efforts of social distancing and minimizing the spread of potential risk. Instead of going into a confined room, we're going to use this room. So we will now ask the public, everyone to exit this room except the city attorney, mayor, board of aldermen. And then we'll need help from IT in preparing the video information.